How did your psycho ex destroy everything trying to get you back? Rachel dumped me via text while I was at my mother's funeral, then showed up at the reception demanding the laptop she'd given me for my birthday. It's expensive and I need it back, she screamed while Mom's casket was being lowered. Death doesn't change ownership. My brother Joey removed her from the cemetery. Thought that was the end. The laptop was just a MacBook she'd bought when mine broke during grad school. But Rachel became obsessed. Texts every hour. Fake legal threats. Voice messages crying about property held hostage. I offered to mail it. She refused, needed to check it in person. Then escalation. Showed up at my job claiming to be emergency contact. Posted online that I'd stolen from her. Created return my property. Calm with my photo. She filed a police report. The officer couldn't hide disbelief. She broke up with you at your mother's funeral over a laptop? When legal channels failed, Rachel got creative. Convinced my landlord I was subleasing illegally, got me evicted. Called my new job claiming I stole office equipment. Contacted my sister pretending to be debt collector. 3 months of this. Why did she care so much about a laptop? I'd wiped it clean, offered to ship it dozens of times. Thanksgiving. Posted about being grateful for family after losing Mom. Rachel saw opportunity. She still had my spare key, forgotten in the grief chaos. What Rachel didn't know, roommate Jordan stayed in town last minute. Jordan was on the couch at 1 a.m. when the door opened. Assumed it was me until she heard Rachel. I'm inside. The laptop has to be here. Jordan, former softball player, grabbed her bat, crept toward my room where Rachel was ransacking everything. Drawers dumped, closet torn apart, mattress flipped. What the hell are you doing? Rachel spun, wild-eyed, holding a screwdriver. Where is the laptop? Leave, now. Rachel laughed. Not without what's mine. Lunged at Jordan with the screwdriver. Jordan swung. Sound of Rachel's wrist breaking echoed. Rachel screamed, attacked with other hand. Jordan didn't hold back. Police found Rachel unconscious. Jordan with bat, apartment destroyed. But what they found in Rachel's car changed everything. Detective called. Come back immediately. Bring someone. You shouldn't see this alone. Brother drove me 6 hours. At the station, evidence room, table covered with photos. All of me. 3 months of surveillance, work, grocery store, therapist, Mom's grave. That's not all. Evidence bag with hard drive labeled insurance. Hundreds of hours of video. Hidden cameras from when we dated. Intimate moments I never knew existed. The laptop? Detective asked. We think she left something on it. They were right. Forensic analysis revealed hidden partition with evidence of Rachel embezzling from her company, using my laptop so trail would lead to me. But worst discovery was her phone. Notes app. Detailed plan. Project recovery. How she'd systematically destroy my life until I had nowhere except back to her. Phase 2 was that night. Police found rope, sedatives, cabin rental in car. Journal detailing what she planned once she had me alone. Rachel charged with breaking and entering, assault, stalking, embezzlement, attempted kidnapping. Got 12 years. At sentencing, still insisted laptop was rightfully hers. Jordan needed surgery, tore shoulder-swinging bat. I paid everything, bought her a car. Detective told me something haunting. Found a suicide note in her car. Not hers. She'd written one for you. Planned to make your death look self-inflicted. Grief plus breakup. Laptop would have had embezzlement evidence. She'd comfort your family as the grieving ex. But yesterday changed everything again. Got a call. Unknown number. Is this about Rachel? I asked. In a way. This is Detective Dwayne. Different department. What department? Cold cases. My blood froze. Rachel made a deal. Information for reduced sentence. Information about what? Your mother's death. My mother had cancer. That's what the death certificate says. But Rachel claims otherwise. That's insane. She has proof. Says she was there. Has video. She wasn't there when Mom died. She was at the hospital. Security footage confirms it. 3 hours before you arrived. That doesn't mean... She knew which medications your mother was on. The exact dosage of morphine that night. Information not in any public record. She could have hacked. She described the room. The nurse on duty. What your mother was wearing. Details only someone there would know. My hands shook. What are you saying? Rachel claims she can prove your mother's death wasn't natural. That someone increased her morphine dose intentionally. Who? She'll only say in person, with you present, tomorrow, 9 a.m. This is manipulation. Maybe, but she passed a polygraph. And there's one more thing. What? Your mother's nurse that night? She died in a car accident 2 weeks after. Brake lines cut. Case went cold until now. The room spun. Rachel says she has video from that night, on the laptop. The real reason she needed it back. I sit in Dwayne's office the next morning at exactly 9 a.m. My hands clench so tight my nails cut into my palms. He slides a folder across the desk. Rachel provided specific details about Mom's final hours that match hospital records never made public. The room feels like it's closing in. He explains she knew the exact morphine dosage. She knew the nurse's name. She knew what Mom was wearing when she died. My throat tightens because those details weren't in any newspaper or online. Dwayne opens the folder and shows me printed hospital logs. The morphine dose is circled in red. Rachel described it exactly. She described the nurse's pink scrubs with the coffee stain on the left sleeve. She described Mom's blue nightgown with the torn lace collar. Things only someone in that room would know. I ask how she could possibly know these things if she wasn't there. Dwayne says that's the problem. She was there. He pulls out security footage timestamps proving Rachel entered the hospital at 6:14 p.m. that night, 3 hours before I arrived. I watch the grainy video on his computer screen. Rachel enters through a side entrance near the emergency department. She moves through hallways with clear purpose. Not the confused wandering of someone lost. She knows exactly where she's going. My stomach turns as I watch her take the elevator to the 4th floor. Mom's floor. The timestamp shows 6:22 p.m. She walks directly to room 447. Mom's room. She goes inside. The camera angle doesn't show what happens in the room, but she stays inside for 7 minutes. When she exits at 6:29 p.m., she looks around the hallway like she's checking if anyone saw her. Then she walks quickly back toward the elevator. I feel sick realizing Rachel was in that building while Mom was dying and I had no idea. I demand to know what Rachel claims happened in that room. Dwayne hesitates. His jaw tightens before he tells me. Rachel says someone deliberately increased Mom's morphine to deadly levels. She won't name who without meeting me face to face in prison. I feel rage building in my chest. Even from behind bars, she's manipulating me. She's controlling the situation. Dwayne says Rachel passed a polygraph about what she witnessed. She described medical equipment in the room. She described Mom's breathing pattern. She described the exact position of the IV stand. Everything checked out. I ask why Rachel would go to the hospital that night. Dwayne doesn't have an answer. He says that's one of many questions we need answered. He tells me Rachel claims she has video proof on the laptop. The hidden partition contains footage from inside Mom's room. She set up a hidden camera somehow. She recorded what happened. That's why she needed the laptop back so desperately. She needed to destroy the evidence before anyone found it. But then she realized the evidence could be her ticket to a reduced sentence. Dwayne says forensic specialists are examining the laptop now. They'll know within days if the footage exists. Dwayne explains that Nurse Reagan Norris's death is being reopened as a homicide investigation based on Rachel's information. The brake line cutting was obvious back then, but the case went cold with no suspects or motive. Now Rachel claims Reagan witnessed something that night, something that got her killed 2 weeks later. He shows me Reagan's accident report. Single vehicle crash on a rural road. Car went off an embankment at high speed. Brake failure. Investigation found the lines were cut cleanly. Professional job. But no leads, no suspects. Case went cold after 6 months. Dwayne says Rachel claims she knows who cut those brake lines. She says she has proof connecting Reagan's death to what happened in Mom's room. She won't share that proof until she gets a deal with the district attorney. I ask if he believes Rachel is telling the truth. Dwayne says the details she knows are too specific to be guesses. Either she was there and witnessed something, or she's involved somehow herself. Neither option makes sense, but the evidence suggests she's not lying about being at the hospital. I leave the police station and sit in my car for 20 minutes. My hands won't stop shaking. I can't drive. Everything I thought I knew about Mom's death is crumbling. The peaceful passing I imagined, the natural end to her suffering. It might have been murder. And Rachel witnessed it. Or Rachel is executing some twisted revenge plan from prison, using my grief as a weapon against me one more time. I don't know which possibility is worse. My phone sits in my lap. I need to call someone. I can't process this alone. Liv is the only person I trust right now. I dial her number with trembling fingers. She answers on the second ring. I tell her I need her to come over right now. My voice breaks. She asks what's wrong. I say I can't explain over the phone. She says she's leaving work immediately. She'll be there in 30 minutes. I finally start the car and drive home on autopilot. My mind replays the security footage over and over. Rachel walking through those hallways. Rachel entering Mom's room. Rachel staying inside for 7 minutes while Mom was dying. Liv arrives at my apartment 20 minutes later. She must have sped the whole way. We sit in my living room and I tell her everything Dwayne said. About the security footage, about Rachel being at the hospital, about the morphine, about Nurse Reagan's murder. Liv goes pale. Her hand covers her mouth. She asks why Rachel would have been there that night. I say I don't know. We both realize we don't know the answer, and that scares us more than anything else. Liv asks if Dwayne thinks Rachel killed Mom. I say no. Rachel claims she witnessed someone else do it. She won't say who without a deal. Liv's eyes widen. She asks if Dwayne has any idea who Rachel is protecting or accusing. I shake my head. Rachel won't talk until she's guaranteed a reduced sentence. Liv stands up and paces across my living room. She says this could all be lies. Rachel manipulating the system one more time, using our grief against us. I say Dwayne showed me the security footage. Rachel was definitely there. The question is what she actually saw. I pull up Mom's death certificate online. Liv sits next to me on the couch. We study every detail together. The morphine dose listed is 15 milligrams per hour. Liv asks if that's normal. I say I don't know. We're not medical professionals. We can't tell if it's too high or standard end-of-life care. I search online for typical morphine doses for cancer patients. The results vary wildly depending on pain levels and tolerance. Some sites say 15 milligrams is reasonable. Others suggest it's high for someone Mom's size. We can't make sense of the medical information. Liv suggests we talk to Joey before making any decisions about seeing Rachel. I hesitate because something about Joey's behavior at the funeral felt off. The way he removed Rachel so quickly. The way he insisted we not talk about her afterward. Liv says Joey was there the night Mom died. He might know something about the morphine levels. He might have talked to the nurses about her care. I agree we need to talk to him even though part of me dreads the conversation. I call Joey without explaining why. I need to see his face when I tell him about Rachel's claims. He answers sounding annoyed. I ask him to come over. He says he's busy. I say it's about Mom. His tone changes. He asks what about Mom. I say I can't explain over the phone. He needs to come over right now. He's silent for a moment, then says he'll be there in an hour. I hang up and look at Liv. She asks if I think Joey knows something. I say I don't know, but we're about to find out. We wait in tense silence. Liv makes coffee neither of us drinks. I stare at my phone, checking the time every few minutes. Finally, Joey knocks on my door. I let him in. He looks annoyed at the interruption until I tell him about Dwayne's visit. His expression shifts to something I can't read. Something between shock and fear. He asks what exactly Rachel is claiming. His voice sounds too controlled, too careful. I explain that Rachel says someone murdered Mom, that someone deliberately increased her morphine to deadly levels, that Nurse Reagan was killed to cover it up. Joey goes completely still. He doesn't move. He doesn't blink. He stares at me for 10 seconds without reacting. Then he asks if I'm seriously considering believing anything Rachel says after what she did to me. His voice rises. He says Rachel is a psychopath, a stalker, a criminal. She's manipulating me from prison. Liv interrupts and says the police have security footage proving Rachel was at the hospital that night. Joey's face goes pale. He asks what footage. I tell him Rachel was there 3 hours before I arrived. She went into Mom's room. She stayed for 7 minutes. Joey sits down on my couch. His hands shake. His defensiveness feels wrong, too aggressive, too immediate. I push harder. I ask if he knows anything about that night he hasn't told us. He says no. His answer comes too fast. Liv and I exchange a look. We both know he's hiding something. I ask Joey directly if he saw Rachel at the hospital that night. He hesitates. The silence stretches too long. Way too long for a simple no. Finally, he says he didn't see her. But his eyes won't meet mine. Liv demands he tell us the truth about what happened. She says we deserve to know if he saw anything suspicious. Joey stands up to leave. I block the door. I tell him he's not going anywhere until he explains why he's acting so defensive about Rachel's claims. He says he's defensive because Rachel tried to destroy my life. Of course, he doesn't want me believing her lies. I say that's not what this is about. The police have evidence, security footage, medical records. Rachel knew details she shouldn't know. Joey's jaw clenches. He says fine. Yes, he arrived at the hospital before me that night. Something he never mentioned during the funeral. Something he never mentioned in 3 months of grieving together. He says he wanted private time to say goodbye. He didn't think it mattered when he got there. But now his omission feels huge, feels deliberate. I ask him what time he arrived. He says around 7:30. I ask if he saw Rachel there. He says no again, but his body language screams that he's lying. I step between Joey and the door, blocking his path. He tries to move around me, but I mirror his movement. Liv stands up from the couch, her face red with anger. Joey's eyes dart between us, calculating whether he can push past. I tell him he's not leaving until he explains why he's been lying about that night. He says he already told us everything and needs to get home. His voice rises, but there's something desperate underneath the anger. Liv moves closer and demands to know exactly what time he saw Rachel at the hospital. Joey runs his hand through his hair, a nervous habit from childhood. He says he doesn't remember the exact time, and why does it matter anyway? I tell him it matters because Rachel was there when Mom died and he watched her go into the room. The color drains from his face. He sits back down on the couch and puts his head in his hands. We wait in silence for what feels like forever. Finally, Joey looks up and admits he saw Rachel around 8 p.m. in the hallway outside Mom's room. He says she was pacing back and forth like she was working up courage to go inside. I ask why he didn't stop her or tell me she was there. Joey says he thought she was just being dramatic and would leave after a few minutes. He watched her enter Mom's room and stayed in the hallway to make sure she didn't cause problems. She came out about 5 minutes later looking upset and rushed past him without making eye contact. I feel sick to my stomach realizing my stalker was alone with my dying mother, while Joey stood outside doing nothing. Liv asks what else he saw that night, and Joey insists that's everything, but his hands are shaking and he won't look at either of us. I ask him directly if he went into Mom's room after Rachel left. He hesitates for too long before saying yes. He went in to check on Mom. The pause before his answer tells me there's more he's not saying. Liv demands to know what condition Mom was in when he checked on her. Joey says she was sleeping peacefully, and he didn't want to disturb her, so he left after a few minutes. I ask if he noticed anything different about her IV or medications. His jaw clenches, and he asks why I'm interrogating him like he did something wrong. I tell him I'm asking because our mother might have been murdered, and he's the only person who admits being there during the critical window besides Rachel. Joey stands up again and says this is insane, that I'm letting a psycho manipulate me from prison. He pushes past me toward the door, and this time I don't stop him. He leaves without another word, and I hear his car start outside. Liv and I stand in my living room trying to process what just happened. She sits down on the couch, and I collapse next to her. Neither of us speaks for several minutes. Finally, Liv asks if I really think Joey could have hurt Mom. I tell her I don't know what to think anymore, but his behavior is wrong. She agrees something doesn't add up about his story. I ask if she remembers Joey acting strange at the funeral or in the days after. Liv thinks for a moment, then says he seemed more relieved than sad, like a weight had been lifted. At the time, she thought he was just glad Mom wasn't suffering anymore. Now that memory feels different. I pull out my phone and stare at Detective Dwayne's number. Liv asks if I'm going to see Rachel in prison. I tell her I don't know if I can handle being in the same room with her after everything she did. But the alternative is living the rest of my life not knowing if someone murdered my mother. Liv says she'll support whatever I decide, but warns me that Rachel will try to manipulate me. I know she's right, but I need to hear what Rachel has to say. I call Dwayne early the next morning before I can change my mind. He answers on the second ring, and I tell him I'll meet with Rachel, but only if he's present and recording everything. He says he can arrange it for Thursday afternoon at the prison. That gives me 3 days to prepare myself mentally. Dwayne warns me that Rachel will try to play on my emotions and guilt. He says she's been cooperative so far, but only because it benefits her. I thank him and hang up feeling like I might throw up. The next 3 days pass in a blur of work meetings I barely remember, and nights lying awake staring at the ceiling. Jordan calls Tuesday evening to check on me. I break down and tell her everything about Joey's lies and the upcoming prison visit. She offers to come with me, but I explain Dwayne has to be my only companion for legal reasons. Jordan makes me promise to call her immediately after. Wednesday night, I give up on sleep around 2 a.m. and open my laptop. I spend hours researching morphine overdoses and end-of-life care protocols. The medical websites all say the dose on Mom's death certificate is high, but not impossible for someone in severe pain. Some cancer patients need extremely high doses to manage their symptoms near the end. I don't know if this information makes me feel better or worse about tomorrow. Part of me wants to believe Mom's death was natural and Rachel is lying, but the evidence keeps pointing towards something wrong happening that night. Thursday morning arrives too fast. I meet Dwayne in the prison parking lot at 1 p.m. He looks tired, like he hasn't been sleeping well either. We go through security screening that takes forever. The guard makes me remove my shoes, belt, and jewelry. She pats me down roughly and checks inside my mouth. Dwayne goes through a separate screening for law enforcement. Finally, we're cleared, and another guard leads us through a series of locked doors. Each one clangs shut behind us with a sound that makes my chest tight. We walk down a long hallway with fluorescent lights that buzz overhead. The guard stops at a door marked Attorney Conference Room and unlocks it. Inside is a small space with a metal table bolted to the floor and 4 plastic chairs. Dwayne and I sit on one side of the table facing the door. The guard tells us Rachel will be brought in shortly and leaves. I stare at the table and notice someone scratched words into the metal surface. I can't make out what they say. Dwayne asks if I'm ready, and I tell him no, but let's do it anyway. We wait in silence. My heart pounds so hard I can barely breathe. I hear footsteps in the hallway and the jingle of chains. The door opens, and Rachel walks in wearing an orange jumpsuit with her hands cuffed in front of her. A different guard follows her inside and positions himself by the door. Rachel looks thinner than I remember, her cheekbones sharp and her eyes sunken. But when she sees me, her whole face lights up like we're old friends meeting for coffee. She sits down across from me with a slight smile. She says it's good to see me and asks how I've been. Dwayne cuts her off and tells her to skip the pleasantries. He says we're here to discuss what she knows about the death of my mother and nothing else. Rachel's smile fades. She leans forward and her chains rattle against the table. She tells me she went to the hospital that night because she knew how much I was hurting and wanted to be there for me. I interrupt and ask why she didn't just call me if she wanted to help. Rachel ignores my question completely and continues talking. She starts talking about Mom's room, how she walked in and found her alone. Mom was struggling to breathe, and Rachel could tell she was in the final stages. Rachel says she sat down in the chair next to the bed because she thought no one should die alone like that. She describes how Mom's breathing sounded wet and raspy, how her hands kept moving on top of the blanket like she was trying to grab something that wasn't there. Rachel's voice gets quieter when she talks about this part, and I hate that she's making herself sound caring. Then she says someone else came into the room and she panicked because she wasn't supposed to be there. She ducked behind the privacy curtain that separates the bed from the door. She stayed hidden there, watching through the gap where the curtain doesn't quite meet the wall. I interrupt and ask who came in. My voice comes out sharper than I meant it to. Rachel leans back in her chair and the chains rattle again. She says she's not telling me that information yet. It's her only way to get a reduced sentence, and she's not giving it up for free. Dwayne slams his hand on the table and tells her that's not how any of this works. She can't withhold information about a murder and use it as a bargaining chip. Rachel just smiles at him like he's being naive. She ignores what he said and turns back to me. She tells me the person who came in didn't say anything to Mom. They just walked straight to the IV pump and started adjusting it. They were calm about it, very purposeful in their movements. The whole thing took less than 2 minutes, and then they left the room. Rachel says she could see Mom's face from where she was hiding, and Mom didn't seem to notice what was happening. Rachel says she stayed behind that curtain for another 10 minutes after the person left. She was scared to move in case they came back. Finally, she crept out and went over to check the IV pump herself because something about the whole interaction felt wrong to her. She claims she took photos with her phone of the morphine levels showing on the pump screen. She also photographed the IV settings and the medication bag hanging above the bed. Dwayne asks where these photos are now, and Rachel says they're on the laptop in the hidden partition she created. The same partition where she stored all her other insurance files. I feel rage building in my chest like pressure behind my ribs. I ask Rachel why she didn't come forward right away if she really witnessed someone murdering my mother. Why did she sit on this information for 3 months while I grieved and had no idea what actually happened? Rachel's expression shifts to something that might be shame, but I don't trust anything on her face anymore. She says she panicked after leaving the hospital. She didn't know what to do with what she'd seen. Then later, she realized the photos could be valuable if she ever needed leverage for something. Dwayne looks at her with pure disgust and tells her that withholding evidence of a murder is a serious crime. She could face additional charges just for keeping this quiet. Rachel ignores him completely and focuses only on me. She says she knows I don't want to believe her. She knows this sounds crazy after everything she put me through. But the proof exists on that laptop, and she can show me exactly what happened that night. She tells me to have the police forensic team look for the partition labeled insurance. It needs a password that only she knows. Dwayne asks what the password is, and Rachel says she'll provide it once her lawyer negotiates a proper deal with the district attorney. She's not giving up her only leverage until she has something in writing. I stand up because I can't sit in this room with her for another second. I can't listen to her manipulate the situation and control the information while acting like she's doing me some kind of favor. But as I'm pushing my chair back, Rachel calls out that there's more I need to know. She says Nurse Reagan figured out what happened. Reagan must have checked the medication records and realized something was wrong with the dosage. Rachel claims Reagan confronted the person responsible, and Rachel witnessed that confrontation too. She says she has video of it from the hospital hallway camera that she hacked into. Dwayne asks how she hacked into hospital security cameras. His voice is tight with anger. Rachel explains it like it's the simplest thing in the world. She used my laptop and my university network access to get into the hospital system remotely. She had my login credentials saved from when we were dating, and I never changed them. I feel violated all over again hearing this. She used my identity to commit crimes and access footage she had no right to see. Rachel says all the footage is stored on the laptop partition along with the photos. Everything she's claiming can be proven if we just look at what's there. I ask her directly why she's doing this now. Why after 3 months of silence is she suddenly so eager to help solve my mother's death? Rachel's expression softens and she says she realized something in prison. She says she still loves me and wants to help me find justice for Mom. The words make me want to throw up. I tell her she doesn't get to pretend this is about love after stalking me and planning to kidnap me. After writing a fake suicide note in my name. After trying to frame me for embezzlement. She looks hurt like I'm being unfair and unreasonable. Like I'm the one not seeing things clearly here. Dwayne stands up and announces the meeting is over. He tells the guard to take Rachel back to her cell. In the car afterward, Dwayne starts the engine but doesn't pull out of the parking lot right away. He sits there gripping the steering wheel and tells me he'll get a warrant for the laptop immediately. The forensic team will examine it, and if Rachel is telling the truth, we'll know within a few days. I ask what happens if she's lying about all of this. If this is just another manipulation to get attention or mess with me. Dwayne says if she's lying, she'll face additional charges for obstruction of justice and wasting police resources, but his tone suggests he thinks she might be telling the truth this time. I drive straight to Liv's house from the prison. She opens the door before I even knock because she's been watching for my car. I tell her everything Rachel said while we sit on her couch. About Rachel hiding behind the curtain and watching someone adjust Mom's IV. About the photos and the hacked security footage. About Nurse Reagan confronting whoever did it. Liv listens without interrupting, but her face gets paler with every detail. When I finish, she says she's having trouble believing Rachel would have all this evidence and not use it earlier during her own legal troubles. If she really had proof of a murder, why didn't she use it to bargain for a better deal back then? We both agree Rachel is definitely manipulating something here. But we can't figure out what her real goal is, or what she hopes to gain by telling this story now. 2 days pass like years. My phone buzzes Tuesday morning while I'm staring at cold coffee. Dwayne's name appears on the screen. My hand shakes picking it up. He found it. The forensics team cracked the partition exactly where Rachel said it would be. They're reviewing everything now. My stomach drops hard. Rachel was telling the truth about at least this part. That means maybe she was telling the truth about all of it. I sit on my kitchen floor because standing feels impossible. The laptop I'd been carrying around for months held evidence of my mother's murder. I feel sick thinking about all the times I almost donated it or sold it online. Dwayne tells me to come to the station tomorrow morning. His voice sounds careful, like he's talking to someone about to break. He warns me the footage will be difficult to watch. I ask if it shows who killed Mom. He pauses too long before answering. Someone enters her room during the critical time. He won't say who over the phone. I need to see it myself. The call ends and I'm still sitting on the floor, unable to move. Jordan finds me there an hour later when she comes home from work. I call Liv that night and tell her about Dwayne's message. She drives over immediately, even though it's almost midnight. We sit on my couch not really talking, just being there together. She holds my hand and asks if I want her to come with me tomorrow. I nod because I can't do this alone. We fall asleep on the couch still holding hands like we did when we were kids, and Mom would work late shifts. Dwayne meets us in the station lobby Wednesday morning. He looks tired, like he hasn't slept much either. He leads us through hallways to a small private room with a computer set up on a table. 2 chairs face the screen. He explains they isolated relevant footage from hours of hospital security recordings Rachel accessed illegally. The video quality is grainy but clear enough to see people and what they're doing. My mouth goes dry. Liv squeezes my hand so tight it hurts. Dwayne clicks play on footage timestamped at 8:47 p.m. The screen shows the hallway outside Mom's room, empty for a few seconds. Then someone appears from the left side of the frame. They walk toward Mom's door, looking around to make sure no one is watching. My heart stops. I recognize the way this person moves. The specific way they check over their shoulder. The exact build and height. They open Mom's door and slip inside. The timestamp keeps running. 8:48 p.m. now. The person stays in the room for 90 seconds. It feels like hours watching the closed door, knowing what's happening inside. Then the door opens again. The person exits and walks quickly back down the hallway. Not running, but moving with purpose. Dwayne pauses the video. He asks if I recognize them. My throat closes up completely. I can't speak. Can't breathe. My entire world is collapsing because I know exactly who I just watched on that screen. Liv makes a choking sound beside me. She gasps out that it can't be true. But the evidence sits right in front of us, frozen on the screen. Dwayne plays another clip. This one shows a close-up of an IV pump with morphine levels clearly visible. The numbers are sharp enough to read. He plays the next photo taken 5 minutes later. The levels increased significantly, way higher than they should be. The timestamps match the hallway footage perfectly. Someone went into Mom's room and changed her medication to kill her. I force words out and ask Dwayne if this proves murder. He says it proves someone altered Mom's medication without permission during her final hours. Combined with Nurse Reagan dying suspiciously 2 weeks later, there's enough evidence to open a homicide investigation. He asks if I'm ready to know who the person in the footage is. I tell him I already know. Saying it out loud makes it real in a way that breaks something inside me. Dwayne confirms what I already figured out. The person entering Mom's room was Joey, my brother. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Dwayne explains Joey had access to Mom's room and knowledge of her medication schedule. He knew exactly what he was doing and when to do it. Liv starts crying beside me, asking why Joey would do this to our mother. Why would he kill her? I don't have answers. Nothing makes sense anymore. Dwayne says they need to bring Joey in for questioning immediately. He asks if I know where Joey is right now. I give them his work address and home address. My voice sounds flat and distant, like it belongs to someone else. I feel like a traitor giving up my brother's information, even though he's the one who committed murder. Liv holds my hand while Dwayne makes calls to dispatch officers to locate Joey. I hear him giving descriptions and addresses, but it all feels unreal. 2 hours pass in that small room. Dwayne brings us coffee we don't drink. Liv and I sit in silence because there's nothing to say that makes this better. Finally, Dwayne's phone rings. He answers and listens, then looks at us. Joey has been taken into custody. They're bringing him in for questioning now. Dwayne says Joey initially denied being at the hospital that night, even though he already admitted it to me days earlier. When they showed him the video evidence, he stopped talking completely. He requested a lawyer. My brother murdered our mother, and now he's lawyering up like any other criminal. I drive home on autopilot, barely seeing the road through tears that won't stop coming. My hands shake on the steering wheel so bad I have to pull over twice just to breathe. Joey killed Mom. My brother murdered our mother. The words keep repeating in my head, but they still don't make sense. When I finally get to my apartment, Jordan is sitting on the doorstep with a bag of takeout. She stands up when she sees me, and I fall apart before I even reach the door. She catches me and holds me while I sob into her shoulder, unable to form words. She guides me inside and sits me on the couch, not asking questions, just being there. I try to explain what I saw in that video, but I can't get through a sentence without breaking down. Jordan waits patiently, rubbing my back while I cry. When I finally manage to tell her about Joey being on the footage, about him going into Mom's room and changing her medication, Jordan goes pale. She asks if there's any chance it's a mistake or misunderstanding. I shake my head because I know what I saw. The timestamps don't lie. The video doesn't lie. Joey went into that room and killed our mother. Jordan holds me tighter and tells me she's so sorry. We sit like that for hours while I cycle through shock and grief and rage. I can't believe my own brother did this. The person who removed Rachel from Mom's funeral is the same person who made that funeral necessary. My phone rings early and I grab it off the nightstand without checking who's calling. Dwayne's voice comes through asking if I can come to the station. Joey made a statement through his lawyer. My stomach drops as I ask what he said. Dwayne explains that Joey admitted being in Mom's room that night. He claims he increased her morphine because she was suffering and begged him to help her die peacefully. Dwayne says Joey is claiming it was assisted suicide, not murder. I feel sick because I know that's a lie. Mom never asked to die. She was fighting to live, talking about wanting to see Liv get married, wanting to meet future grandchildren. Dwayne tells me there's more evidence I need to see and asks when I can come in. I tell him I'll be there in an hour. Jordan drives me because I'm still too shaky to be behind the wheel. At the station, Dwayne leads me to the same small room where we watched the video yesterday. He opens a file on his computer and shows me text messages between Joey and Reagan. The messages start friendly but quickly turn tense. Reagan says the morphine levels in Mom's chart don't match what she remembers administering. She asks Joey if he knows anything about it. Joey responds that he was just visiting his mother and doesn't understand medical records. Reagan's next message says she checked the security footage and saw him near the medication cart. She threatens to report him to the hospital administration. Joey's final text to her says they need to talk in person. The timestamp is 2 days before Reagan's car accident. Dwayne scrolls through more evidence while I sit frozen in my chair. He explains they've reopened Reagan's death investigation based on this new information. They found security footage from the parking garage where Reagan's car was kept. Joey is clearly visible near her vehicle for several minutes the day before her accident. He's wearing gloves and looking around to make sure no one is watching. The footage shows him crouching by the front wheel well where the brake lines would be. Dwayne says they're bringing in automotive experts to analyze the footage and determine if what Joey did would cause the kind of brake failure Reagan experienced. I feel like I'm gonna throw up. My brother didn't just kill our mother. He killed a witness to cover it up. He murdered a young nurse who was just doing her job, who saw something wrong and tried to report it. Dwayne asks if I'm okay, and I tell him no, I'm not okay. Nothing about this is okay. He gives me a glass of water and waits while I try to compose myself. I ask what happens now, and Dwayne says they're building a case for 2 counts of first-degree murder. Joey's assisted suicide claim won't hold up against the evidence of premeditation and the second murder. I ask how long this will take, and Dwayne says it depends on how much Joey's lawyer fights the charges. Could be months before trial. I leave the station feeling like I'm walking through a nightmare I can't wake up from. 3 days later, Liv and I sit in a conference room at a law office downtown. Joey's lawyer wants to meet with us. The lawyer is a man in his 50s with expensive suit and cold eyes. He introduces himself and gets straight to business. He says Joey is facing serious charges, but there's a path to a better outcome if we're willing to help. He wants us to support Joey's assisted suicide defense and testify that Mom was suffering terribly in her final days. He pulls out medical records showing Mom's pain levels and medication history. He argues that Joey was acting out of compassion, not malice. I interrupt him and say Mom never asked anyone to kill her. The lawyer says that doesn't matter legally if we can establish she was in unbearable pain and had expressed wishes to die. I tell him Mom never expressed those wishes. She wanted to live. She was talking about the future right up until the end. The lawyer looks frustrated and turns to Liv, asking if she'll testify. Liv shakes her head and says she agrees with me. Mom never wanted to die, and Joey made that decision without consulting anyone in the family. The lawyer's expression hardens and he says we're making a mistake. Without our support, Joey will likely face life in prison. I stand up and tell him that's what Joey deserves. He killed our mother, and then he killed an innocent nurse to hide what he did. The lawyer tries to argue, but I'm already walking out. Liv follows me and we leave his office without looking back. My phone rings that afternoon and the caller ID shows a number I don't recognize. I answer cautiously, and a woman introduces herself as District Attorney Verity Buchanan. She wants to discuss Rachel's role in the investigation and what kind of deal the prosecution might offer. I ask what Rachel wants, and Verity explains that Rachel's evidence is crucial for proving premeditation and connecting Joey to Reagan's death. Without Rachel's testimony about hiding in Mom's room and witnessing Joey adjust the IV, they only have circumstantial evidence. Without Rachel's security footage showing the timeline, Joey's lawyer could argue reasonable doubt. Rachel wants a reduced sentence and transfer to a lower security facility in exchange for her cooperation. I feel anger rising because Rachel is going to benefit from all of this. Verity seems to sense my feelings and says she understands this is difficult. She explains that sometimes prosecutors have to make deals they don't like in order to secure justice for victims. Rachel's footage proves Joey planned Mom's death and then killed Reagan to cover it up. Without that evidence, Joey might only face manslaughter charges or even get acquitted. I ask how much time Rachel would get, and Verity says they're negotiating, but probably 7 years with possibility of parole in 5. I hate every part of this, but I tell Verity to do what she needs to do. Justice for Mom and Reagan matters more than my feelings about Rachel. I spend the next week trying to process everything while the legal system grinds forward. Verity calls with updates about the negotiation with Rachel's lawyer. I try to focus on work, but I can't concentrate. Jordan checks on me every day, and Liv comes over most evenings. We don't talk much about Joey, but his absence is obvious. Neither of us has heard from him since the lawyer meeting. I wonder if he's sitting in jail thinking about what he did, or if he's still convinced he was right. The idea that my brother could kill 2 people and feel justified makes me sick. Rachel's lawyer finally reaches a deal with the prosecution. She'll get 7 years with possibility of parole in 5 if she testifies truthfully at Joey's trial. The deal includes transfer to a facility with better mental health resources. I receive official notification of the agreement and have to sign off on it as a victim in Rachel's original case. My hand shakes as I sign the papers. Rachel stalked me, broke into my apartment, planned to kidnap and kill me. Now she's getting a reduced sentence because she happened to witness my brother committing murder. The universe has a sick sense of humor. 2 weeks after Joey's arrest, formal charges are filed. 2 counts of first-degree murder. 1 for Mom, 1 for Reagan. The news coverage is extensive because the case has everything reporters love. Family drama, a mercy-killing defense, a second murder to cover up the first. My phone fills with messages from people I haven't talked to in years asking if I'm okay. I stop reading them and turn off notifications. Joey's lawyer files motions trying to get the video evidence suppressed because Rachel obtained it illegally. I hold my breath waiting for the judge's ruling. If the footage gets thrown out, the case against Joey falls apart. 3 days later, the judge rules the evidence is admissible. The illegal method of obtaining it doesn't outweigh its importance to a murder investigation. I feel relief wash over me for the first time in weeks. Without that footage, Joey might have gotten away with everything. The trial is scheduled for 4 months from now. Verity warns me it's going to be difficult. I'll have to testify. I'll have to see Joey in court and describe what I saw in that video. I'll have to watch Rachel testify and relive the nightmare of her stalking me. But at least there will be justice. At least Mom and Reagan won't be forgotten. I make an appointment with a therapist because I can't handle this alone anymore. The therapist's name is Kieran, and his office is in a quiet building near the park. He's younger than I expected, with kind eyes and a calm presence. I sit on his couch and don't know where to start. He asks what brings me in, and I laugh because the question is so simple for such a complicated situation. I tell him my brother murdered my mother and a nurse. I tell him my ex-girlfriend witnessed it and is now testifying against him. I tell him I don't know how to process any of this or move forward with my life. Kieran listens without interrupting, and when I finish, he says what I'm experiencing is a normal response to extraordinary trauma. He explains that I'm dealing with multiple layers of grief and betrayal. Grief for my mother. Grief for the brother I thought I knew. Betrayal from Joey. Complicated feelings about Rachel. He says we'll work through it together at my own pace. The first session helps more than I expected. Kieran doesn't try to fix everything or offer easy answers. He just helps me untangle the mess of emotions enough to breathe a little easier. I schedule weekly appointments and commit to doing the work. I owe it to Mom. I owe it to Reagan. I owe it to myself. The nightmares start that week. Every night I dream about Mom's final moments. Sometimes I'm in the room watching Joey adjust the IV while I stand frozen, unable to move or scream. Sometimes I'm Mom looking up at Joey as he kills me. Sometimes I'm Reagan driving home when my brakes fail and I go flying off the road. I wake up gasping and covered in sweat. Jordan hears me one night and comes to check on me. She sits on the edge of my bed and asks if I want to talk about it. I describe the dreams and she holds my hand while I cry. She suggests I call Kieran in the morning because these nightmares aren't going away on their own. I do call and Kieran squeezes me in for an emergency session. He teaches me some grounding techniques for when the nightmares wake me up. He explains that my brain is trying to process trauma, and the dreams are part of that process. He says they'll get better with time and therapy, but I need to be patient with myself. I practice the grounding exercises and they help a little. I still wake up most nights in a panic, but I can calm myself down faster now. Kieran says that's progress. I tell him it doesn't feel like progress. It feels like I'm barely surviving. He reminds me that surviving is enough right now. I don't have to be okay. I just have to keep going one day at a time. I call Liv the next morning and ask if she wants to help me go through Mom's things at her old house. We've been putting it off for months, but I need to find anything that might help Joey's case or prove he's lying about Mom wanting to die. Liv meets me at the house an hour later with coffee and boxes. We start in Mom's bedroom where everything still smells like her lavender lotion. Liv opens the closet and starts folding clothes while I tackle the nightstand drawers. The first drawer has medications and receipts. The second has photos of us as kids. The third drawer sticks and I have to yank it hard to get it open. Inside, I find a leather journal I've never seen before. The cover is worn and the pages are filled with Mom's handwriting. I sit on the bed and start reading while Liv comes over to look. The entries start 3 months before Mom died, when she was still doing okay. She writes about her pain levels and doctor appointments, but also about normal things like her garden and what she watched on TV. I flip through pages and find an entry from 2 weeks before she died. Mom writes about being scared of the pain getting worse, but also about wanting to see Liv get married next summer. She lists things she wants to be alive for. Liv's wedding, my graduation from my program, her friend's birthday party in the fall. There's another entry from 5 days before she died where Mom talks about a bad pain day, but then writes about the new medication helping and how she's looking forward to her physical therapy appointment. I keep reading and my hands start shaking. Every single entry talks about fighting through the pain and wanting more time. Not once does Mom write about wanting to die or asking anyone to end her suffering. The last entry is from the morning of the day she died. Mom writes that the pain is bad but manageable, and she's excited because I'm supposed to visit that evening. She writes that she loves us and can't wait to see what the future holds. Liv reads over my shoulder and starts crying. This journal destroys everything Joey claimed about Mom begging him to help her die. I take photos of every page with my phone, then call Verity immediately. She answers on the second ring, and I tell her I found Mom's journal from her final weeks. Verity asks me to bring it to her office right away, so I drive there with Liv while she keeps reading entries out loud. Each one makes it clearer that Mom never wanted to die, and Joey made that decision without her consent. At Verity's office, I hand over the journal and she spends 20 minutes reading through it carefully. She looks up and tells me this is powerful evidence that completely undermines Joey's mercy-killing defense. The journal shows Mom was fighting to stay alive and looking forward to future events. Verity explains the trial will focus on whether Joey acted out of misguided mercy or selfish convenience. She asks what I think Joey's real motivation was, and I tell her the truth. Joey wanted Mom's suffering to end because watching her in pain was hard on him, not because she asked for it. He made the choice that was easier for him and then killed Reagan to cover it up. Verity nods and says the prosecution will argue exactly that angle. She tells me the journal entries about Liv's wedding and my graduation prove Mom had reasons to keep living that Joey ignored. I ask when the trial starts, and Verity says they're aiming for 3 months from now. She needs time to build the case and coordinate with the private investigator looking into Reagan's death. I leave her office feeling like we finally have real evidence that will convict Joey. Liv drives me home, and we sit in her car talking about how Mom never gave up even when the pain was terrible. She fought to stay alive, and Joey stole that from her. 2 weeks later, I get a call from Verity saying the private investigator Gregory Cook finished his analysis of Reagan's death. She asked me to come to her office to hear his findings. I arrive the next morning, and Gregory is there with a thick folder of documents. He's older with gray hair and steady hands that don't shake when he opens the folder. Gregory explains he examined the police reports from Reagan's accident and got access to what's left of her car. The brake lines were cut professionally in a way designed to fail at high speed on a curve. It wasn't amateur work or random vandalism. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. Gregory slides photos across the table showing the clean cuts on the brake lines. He tells me he also investigated Joey's background and found something disturbing. Joey enrolled in an online automotive mechanics course 2 months before Reagan's accident. The course covered brake systems and how they work. Gregory has screenshots of Joey's login activity and the specific modules he completed. One module was titled Advanced Brake System Maintenance and Repair. The premeditation is completely clear. Joey learned how to cut brake lines, then used that knowledge to kill Reagan. Gregory shows me Joey's search history from his laptop that police seized. Joey Googled things like how to cut brake lines without detection and car accidents from brake failure. He researched the road where Reagan's accident happened and studied the curves. Everything points to Joey planning Reagan's murder carefully over weeks. Verity tells me this evidence, combined with the threatening text messages, proves first-degree murder. The jury will see that Joey didn't just kill Mom in a moment of misguided mercy. He calculated both murders and executed them deliberately. I feel sick looking at all the evidence, but also relieved that we can prove what Joey did. Gregory closes his folder and tells me Reagan deserved better than what happened to her. I agree and thank him for his thorough work. 3 months pass in a blur of preparation and legal meetings. Verity keeps me updated on the case and warns me the trial will be difficult. I have to testify about finding the laptop evidence and my conversations with Rachel. I practice my testimony with Verity until I can get through it without breaking down. The trial starts on a cold Monday morning in February. I arrive at the courthouse with Liv and Jordan, who both took time off work to support me. The courtroom is packed with reporters and Reagan's family members. Joey sits at the defense table in a suit, looking calm and composed. His lawyer shuffles papers and whispers to him. I take a seat behind the prosecution table where Verity is organizing her files. The judge enters and everyone stands. Jury selection took a week, but now we have 12 people who will decide Joey's fate. The trial begins with opening statements. Verity lays out the prosecution's case methodically. She tells the jury about Mom's journal entries and her desire to keep living. She describes the security footage showing Joey entering Mom's room. She explains how Joey killed Reagan to silence a witness. Verity's voice is steady and professional as she walks through the timeline of both murders. Joey's lawyer gives his opening statement claiming Joey acted out of love and mercy. He says Joey couldn't bear to watch Mom suffer anymore and made a difficult decision. The lawyer tries to paint Joey as a devoted son who made a mistake. I feel rage building as I listen to the lies. When it's my turn to testify, I walk to the witness stand on shaking legs. Verity asks me about the laptop and Rachel's evidence. I explain how we found the hidden partition and what it contained. Joey stares at me from the defense table with cold eyes like I betrayed him. I stare back knowing he betrayed our entire family first. I testify about Mom's journal and reading her entries about wanting to live. Verity shows the jury photos of the journal pages blown up on a screen. Joey's lawyer cross-examines me and tries to suggest I'm biased against my brother. I tell him I'm biased toward the truth and my mother deserved justice. The judge allows my answer, and I return to my seat feeling drained. The next day, Rachel testifies, and I have to watch her walk into the courtroom in civilian clothes instead of her prison uniform. The deal Verity made with her included this concession. Rachel takes the stand and swears to tell the truth. Cormac prepared her well because she sticks to facts without trying to manipulate anyone. Rachel describes hiding in Mom's room and seeing Joey enter. She explains watching him adjust the IV pump and increase the morphine dose. Her testimony is clear and detailed. She talks about taking photos because she knew something wrong was happening. Rachel doesn't cry or make dramatic gestures. She just tells what she saw in a calm voice. I watch the jury and see them believing her despite knowing her criminal history. Verity did a good job preparing them in opening statements about Rachel's background and why her testimony is still credible. Joey's lawyer tries to attack Rachel's character during cross-examination. He brings up her stalking and assault charges. Rachel admits she did terrible things but says that doesn't change what she witnessed. She tells the lawyer she has no reason to lie now because she already got her deal. The lawyer asks why the jury should believe someone who stalked and tried to kidnap me. Rachel looks directly at the jury and says she's not asking them to like her or forgive her. She's asking them to look at the evidence she provided. The photos and video don't lie even if she's lied before. It's a surprisingly effective answer, and I see several jurors nodding. The prosecution plays the security footage for the jury on the third day of trial. The courtroom goes silent as everyone watches the screen. The video shows the hospital hallway outside Mom's room. Joey appears at 8:47 p.m. walking quickly and looking around. He enters Mom's room and the timestamp shows him inside for 90 seconds. When he exits, he walks away fast without looking back. You can hear people gasping when they recognize Joey. Verity walks the jury through the timeline step by step. She shows Joey's presence, the morphine increase documented in Rachel's photos, and Mom's death 30 minutes later. The evidence is overwhelming. Verity displays Mom's journal entries on the screen showing her desire to keep living. She reads several entries out loud, including the last one from the morning Mom died. Joey's lawyer objects several times, but the judge overrules him. The lawyer tries to argue mercy killing in his cross-examination of the medical examiner. He asks if the morphine dose could have been appropriate for end-of-life care. The medical examiner says the dose was higher than standard protocols and would have been discussed with family first. No such discussion was documented. The journal entries make it impossible to argue Mom consented. Verity rests her case after presenting all the evidence connecting Joey to both murders. I feel exhausted from 3 days of testimony, but relieved the truth is finally out there. Reagan's sister testifies on the 4th day, and I watch her walk to the stand looking nervous. She's younger than Reagan was, with the same dark hair and sad eyes. Verity asks about Reagan's behavior in the days before her death. Reagan's sister pulls out her phone and reads text messages Reagan sent her. The messages talk about witnessing something terrible at work and being afraid to report it. Reagan wrote that a patient's family member did something wrong and she didn't know what to do. She texted about someone threatening her if she told anyone. Reagan's sister starts crying while reading the messages out loud. She describes how Reagan called her the night before the accident sounding terrified. Reagan said she was going to the police the next day no matter what. Reagan's sister breaks down completely, and the judge calls a recess. When testimony resumes, she tells the jury about identifying Reagan's body after the accident. She talks about the police saying it was brake failure and how that never made sense because Reagan just had her car serviced. The jury looks at Joey with visible disgust. Several jurors are wiping their eyes. I know they see Joey for what he really is now. A man who killed his own mother, then murdered an innocent nurse to cover it up. Reagan's sister finishes her testimony by saying Joey stole her sister's future and destroyed their family. Verity has no further questions. Joey's lawyer doesn't cross-examine because there's nothing he can say that won't make things worse. Joey's lawyer puts him on the stand the next day in a last attempt to save the case. Joey wears a dark suit and looks directly at the jury when he's sworn in. His lawyer asks him to explain what happened the night Mom died. Joey claims he arrived at the hospital and found Mom in terrible pain. He says she looked at him with pleading eyes and he knew what she wanted. Joey testifies that he increased her morphine to end her suffering because he loved her too much to watch her hurt. His voice cracks with emotion, and I want to scream that he's lying. Joey's lawyer asks why he didn't tell anyone what he did. Joey says he panicked and realized people wouldn't understand his mercy. The lawyer asks about Reagan, and Joey claims he never threatened her. He says Reagan must have misunderstood their conversation. It's all lies delivered with fake tears. Then Verity stands up for cross-examination, and everything changes. She asks Joey why he didn't discuss ending Mom's life with me or Liv first. Joey hesitates and says he didn't want to burden us with the decision. Verity asks if he considered that we might have wanted to say goodbye. Joey admits he didn't think about that. Verity shows him Mom's journal entries and asks him to read the last one out loud. Joey's voice shakes as he reads Mom's words about looking forward to seeing me that evening. Verity asks if those sound like the words of someone who wanted to die. Joey says Mom was just trying to stay positive. Verity destroys him by asking why Mom wrote about future events like Liv's wedding if she wanted to die. Joey has no good answer. He stammers and says Mom's pain was worse than she wrote about. Verity asks how he knows that if Mom didn't tell him. Joey admits he assumed. Verity asks if he knew we would have stopped him from killing Mom. Joey goes quiet, then finally admits yes. He knew we would have stopped him. Verity sits down and Joey's lawyer tries redirect, but the damage is done. The trial lasts 2 full weeks with expert witnesses and more evidence. The jury gets the case on a Friday afternoon, and I go home expecting days of waiting. but they deliberate for only 6 hours before sending word they have verdicts. Everyone rushes back to the courthouse. I sit in the gallery with Liv holding my hand so tight it hurts. The jury files in looking serious. The judge asks if they've reached verdicts, and the foreman says yes. Guilty on count 1, first-degree murder of Mom. Guilty on count 2, first-degree murder of Reagan. Joey shows no emotion when the verdicts are read. His face stays blank like he's not even there. But I see his lawyer's shoulders slump in defeat. Reagan's family cries with relief behind me. The judge thanks the jury and sets sentencing for 3 weeks later. Joey is led away in handcuffs, and I finally feel like I can breathe. Verity comes over and tells me the verdicts were the right outcome. I thank her for everything she did to get justice. Liv and I leave the courthouse and sit in her car for a long time not talking. The guilty verdicts don't bring Mom or Reagan back, but at least Joey will pay for what he did. 3 weeks later, I'm back in the same courtroom for sentencing. The judge allows victim impact statements before deciding Joey's punishment. I prepared mine with Kieran's help and practiced until I could get through it. Reagan's sister goes first and tells the court how Joey destroyed her family. She talks about Reagan's dreams and kindness. She asks the judge to impose the maximum sentence. Then it's my turn. I walk to the podium and look at Joey sitting at the defense table. I tell the court that Joey didn't just kill our mother. He stole our chance to say goodbye properly. He robbed Mom of her final weeks when she wanted to keep fighting. He destroyed our family by murdering the person we loved most. I explain how Joey killed Reagan to protect himself and showed no remorse for either death. I ask the judge to consider that Joey planned both murders carefully and executed them without hesitation. My voice stays steady, even though I'm shaking inside. Liv gives her statement next and talks about losing both a mother and a brother. She tells the judge that Joey's actions were selfish and cruel. The judge listens to all the statements, then addresses Joey directly. He says Joey betrayed the trust of his family and took 2 innocent lives. The judge sentences Joey to 25 years to life with possibility of parole after 20 years. Joey will be 62 before he can even apply for parole. The sentence feels right. Not enough to bring anyone back, but enough to ensure Joey pays for what he did. I leave the courthouse with Liv and Jordan feeling like a chapter finally closed. Verity found me in the courthouse hallway after everyone left and told me Rachel fulfilled her part of the deal. The transfer papers were already processed, and Rachel would move to a lower security facility within the month. Verity asked if I wanted to speak with Rachel one final time before the transfer happened. I surprised myself by saying yes because some part of me needed closure on that relationship even after everything. Verity pulled out her phone and made arrangements right there, scheduling the meeting for the following week at the prison. She warned me it would be difficult, but said sometimes facing the person who hurt you helps with moving forward. I thanked her for everything she did throughout the trial and investigation. She squeezed my shoulder and told me to take care of myself. Dwayne picked me up the morning of the prison visit because I didn't trust myself to drive there alone. We went through security at the entrance and waited in a sterile conference room with cameras mounted in the corners. The guard brought Rachel in wearing her orange jumpsuit, and she looked different from I remembered. Thinner, less manic, with her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail instead of the wild mess from the night Jordan found her in my apartment. She sat across from me at the metal table, and Dwayne positioned himself near the door. Rachel stared at me for a long moment before speaking. She told me she was genuinely sorry for what she put me through and that witnessing Mom's murder changed her perspective on life. The words sounded rehearsed, but her eyes looked sincere in a way I hadn't seen before. I didn't know if I believed her transformation was real, but I appreciated hearing the apology anyway. Rachel started explaining why she became obsessed with the laptop in the first place. She said after witnessing Joey in Mom's room that night, she realized the evidence could be her ticket to a reduced sentence if she ever needed leverage. The photos and video footage were insurance she kept hidden in case her life fell apart. She admitted she never intended to let things escalate as far as they did with the stalking and break-in. Her mental health spiraled after we broke up and she lost control of her actions. I interrupted and told her that doesn't excuse stalking me for 3 months or planning to kidnap me. She nodded and agreed it doesn't excuse anything, but said she was sick in ways she didn't understand at the time. Dwayne shifted by the door but stayed quiet. I asked Rachel the question that bothered me most during the entire investigation. Why did she wait 3 months to come forward with the evidence instead of going to police immediately after Mom died? Rachel looked down at her hands on the table and admitted she was trying to use the evidence as leverage to get me back. She thought if she could prove she helped solve Mom's murder, I might forgive her for the breakup and everything else. The delusion was staggering, but at least she was being honest now instead of making excuses. She explained her thinking became so distorted that she convinced herself destroying my life would somehow bring us back together. I told her I understood she was sick, but the damage she caused was real and lasting. Rachel told me about the psychiatric treatment she was receiving in prison. Real therapy sessions 3 times a week with medication that actually helped balance her brain chemistry. She said she was starting to understand how distorted her thinking became and how she created an alternate reality where her actions made sense. She explained the doctors diagnosed her with obsessive tendencies and delusional thinking patterns that went untreated for years. She didn't expect forgiveness from me, but hoped someday I could remember the good parts of our relationship before everything went wrong. The coffee shop dates and movie nights and lazy Sunday mornings. I told her I would try to remember those moments, but right now I just needed distance from everyone who hurt me. She understood and said she wouldn't contact me again after this meeting. I stood up to leave because sitting across from Rachel was emotionally draining in ways I didn't expect. Dwayne opened the door, and the guard came to escort Rachel back to her cell. She paused before leaving and told me she hoped I found peace with everything that happened. I didn't respond because I wasn't sure peace was possible yet. Dwayne walked me through the prison corridors and out to the parking lot where his car waited. He told me I handled the meeting with remarkable strength and composure. I didn't feel strong, but I appreciated his support throughout this nightmare. The drive back felt longer than the drive there. Liv and I planned a small memorial service for Mom with just close friends who knew her before the cancer. We chose her favorite beach where she used to take us as kids during summer vacations. The weather cooperated with clear skies and gentle waves rolling onto the sand. About 15 people showed up carrying flowers and memories. Liv spoke first about Mom's love for painting and how she always encouraged us to pursue our passions. Jordan shared a story about Mom teaching her to make apple pie from scratch during Thanksgiving 2 years ago. I talked about Mom's strength during her illness and how she never complained even when the pain became unbearable. We scattered her ashes in the water as the sun set behind us. People shared more memories of Mom before the cancer and before Joey destroyed everything. It was painful remembering who she was, but also healing to honor her memory correctly this time. I continued seeing Kieran twice a week to process everything that happened. The sessions focused on the complex grief of losing my mother twice, once to cancer and once to the truth about her death. Kieran helped me understand that I could miss Joey while also holding him accountable for his crimes. Those two feelings didn't cancel each other out, but existed together in uncomfortable tension. He taught me techniques for managing the anger that surfaced at random moments. The work was hard, and some days I left his office feeling worse than when I arrived. But slowly I was learning to live with the reality of what happened instead of trying to push it away. 6 months after Joey's sentencing, a letter arrived in my mailbox with the prison return address. I recognized Joey's handwriting on the envelope, and my hands shook opening it. He wrote 3 pages trying to explain his actions and asking for forgiveness. He claimed he only wanted to end Mom's suffering, and that Reagan's death was an accident during a confrontation. The justifications made me angry all over again because he still didn't take full responsibility. I read the letter once, then threw it in the trash without responding. Liv called that evening and said she received a similar letter. She also threw hers away without reading past the first paragraph. We agreed to maintain no contact with Joey indefinitely, because neither of us was ready to engage with his version of events. Jordan helped me move to a new apartment across town because too many memories haunted my old place. Every room reminded me of Rachel's break-in, or the investigation, or the trial. The fresh start felt necessary for my mental health. Jordan recruited some friends and we loaded everything into a moving truck on a Saturday morning. The new apartment had more natural light and a view of the park instead of the parking lot. Jordan helped me unpack boxes and arrange furniture while making jokes about being my official bodyguard for life. I laughed for the first time in months and realized how much I needed friends who stuck by me through everything. We ordered pizza and sat on the floor of my empty living room eating directly from the box. Jordan told me she was proud of how I handled everything, and that took real courage. I didn't feel courageous, but I appreciated her saying it anyway. The Victims' Rights Organization reached out to me 3 weeks after Joey's sentencing because someone from the district attorney's office gave them my contact information. They asked if I wanted to volunteer helping other families navigate the criminal justice system, and I said yes without thinking too hard about it. The orientation happened on a cold Tuesday morning in a small office downtown, with peeling paint on the walls and ancient coffee stains on the carpet. 5 other volunteers sat around a conference table while the program director explained what we'd be doing, and I realized most of them had their own stories about losing someone to violence. She assigned me to work with families whose cases were still going through the court system, and warned me it would bring up my own trauma constantly. The first family I helped had a teenage daughter who died in a drunk driving accident, and the driver only got probation because of some technicality with the breathalyzer test. I sat with the parents in a coffee shop while they cried and told me they felt like the system didn't care about their daughter, and I knew exactly what they meant because I'd felt that way too before Joey got convicted. I helped them write victim impact statements and explained how the appeals process worked and drove them to court hearings when they couldn't face going alone. The work exhausted me emotionally, and some nights I came home and just sat on my couch staring at nothing because I'd absorbed too much pain from other people. But it also gave me purpose in a way nothing else had since Mom died, because I could use what happened to me to help someone else survive their worst day. Jordan noticed I seemed more grounded after I started volunteering, even though the work was hard, and she said helping others was probably helping me heal too. Kieran agreed during our sessions and said channeling trauma into meaningful action was one of the healthiest coping mechanisms I could develop. 6 months into volunteering, I got assigned to a case where a woman's brother had been murdered by their other brother, and I almost asked to be transferred because it hit too close to home. But I stayed with it and helped her through the trial, and watched her brother get convicted, and she hugged me afterward, and said I was the only person who truly understood what she was going through. A year after Detective Dwayne first called me about Rachel's claims, I woke up one morning and realized I'd slept through the night without nightmares for the first time in months. Liv noticed the change too when we met for lunch that week and said I seemed lighter somehow, like I wasn't carrying the weight of everything on my shoulders anymore. I'd been seeing Kieran twice a week still, and the therapy was helping me work through the complicated grief of losing Mom and then losing Joey even though he was still alive. Kieran taught me that I could miss the brother I thought I had, while also accepting that person never really existed, because Joey was always capable of what he did. The trust issues were harder to fix, and I still found myself questioning everyone's motives and looking for hidden agendas in normal interactions. Jordan remained my closest friend, and I'd learned to accept her support without feeling like I owed her something in return, which Kieran said was major progress. I kept boundaries with extended family members who'd defended Joey or suggested I should forgive him, and some of them stopped speaking to me entirely, but I was okay with that. Dating felt impossible for months, because how do you explain to someone new that your ex-girlfriend tried to kidnap you, and your brother murdered your mother without sounding completely damaged? But then I met someone at the Victims' Rights Organization, who volunteered there for similar reasons, and we started talking after meetings and eventually went to dinner. His name was Chris, and he'd lost his sister to domestic violence, and understood trauma in ways most people couldn't. We took things slowly because we both had trust issues and needed time to feel safe with another person. Chris knew my whole history because I told him everything on our third date, and he didn't run away or treat me like I was broken. 6 months into dating him, I realized I could imagine a future that wasn't defined entirely by what Joey and Rachel had done to me. The anniversary of Mom's death fell on a Sunday, and I drove to the cemetery alone because I needed private time with her. The headstone looked weathered already, even though it had only been a year, and someone had left fresh flowers that I assumed were from Liv. I sat on the grass next to the grave and told Mom out loud that we got justice for what Joey did to her, even though it didn't bring her back. I explained that Joey was in prison and would be there for at least 20 years, and that Rachel's testimony had been crucial in convicting him. Part of me wondered if Mom would be angry that I helped put her son in prison, but I knew she would have wanted the truth to come out no matter how painful it was. I told her about volunteering with the Victims' Rights Organization, and about Chris, and about learning to live with what happened instead of being destroyed by it. The tears came, but they felt different from the grief tears from before, because now they were mixed with acceptance and even hope. I was learning to remember Mom the way she was before the cancer, and before Joey destroyed everything, instead of only remembering her final suffering. Life wasn't perfect, and I still had hard days when the anger and sadness felt overwhelming, but those days were getting less frequent. I had Liv and Jordan and Chris and meaningful work, and a future I was building based on truth and healthy relationships. The scars from everything that happened would always be part of me, and would probably affect how I trusted people for the rest of my life. But they didn't define who I was becoming, and I refused to let Joey and Rachel have that power over me anymore. I stood up and touched Mom's headstone one more time before walking back to my car, knowing I'd visit again, but that I didn't need to come here to feel connected to her anymore.